Welcome to the WTR Small Cap Spotlight podcast. I'm your host, Tim Gerdeman, Vice Chair and Co-founder and Chief Marketing Officer of Water Tower Research. In today's episode, I'm being joined by my colleague and WTR Senior Energy Transition and Sustainable Investing Analyst, Peter Gastreich. Peter and I will be discussing his recent initiation of coverage report on Comstock Inc., NYSE ticker symbol LODE. Good morning, Peter, and thank you for joining me today.
Morning, Tim.
Peter, to start, could you give us a high-level overview of Comstock's business model?
Yeah, absolutely, Tim. So Comstock is a Nevada-based company, and they're focused on solutions for some of the biggest bottlenecks in clean energy and industrial supply chains. The core businesses include, number one, a metals business of high-volume solar panel recycling. Number two, a large and historic gold and silver mining district in Nevada. Number three, strategically located industrial real estate. And number four, a fast advancing renewable fuels platform through their Bioleum subsidiary.
Great. So solar panel recycling seems to be a leading growth driver at the company. What's so significant about the metals platform, Peter?
Well, it's very unique. Comstock has developed a proprietary zero landfill solar panel recycling technology that's strong both commercially and environmentally in terms of its attributes. They can process a panel every 7 seconds, which translates into about 3.3 million panels a year per facility. We know what goes into solar panels, and Comstock, extracts those materials. So think about high-value materials like silver-rich tailings and aluminum. Comstock also receives tipping fees, which is a component we're seeing in more renewables companies. The tipping fees, you may be familiar, these are basically paid by utilities as a cost of disposing of the solar panels. You can think of the term tipping as a reference to a truck which is tipping its contents, in this case, solar panels, into a landfill. But instead of paying that fee to a landfill, utilities are paying that tipping fee to Comstock to offload those panels. So in terms of the economics, overall tipping fees run at about $500 per ton. The commodity revenue for all the things they're pulling out of those panels is around $200 per ton, while the all-in processing cost is only about $150 per ton. So the margin is potentially substantial there. So with millions of panels hitting end of life and landfill bans spreading, demand is really exploding for this business. Their first large-scale plant in Nevada is, as of last week, fully permitted and expected to ramp through 2026 and 27. They plan up to 7 plants nationwide, and at scale, this so-called urban mining business could make them one of the largest silver producers in the U.S.
That's a really cool business, and it definitely addresses a major recycling dilemma, as you pointed to. So I'm curious, how does the mining and real estate segment fit into the broader strategy?
Well, the mining and real estate, there aren't the prime growth engines for the moment, but they're extremely valuable assets that provide optionality and some financial leverage for the company. On the mining side, Comstock controls a contiguous 12 square mile historic district that produced nearly 200 million ounces of silver historically. They maintain permits, infrastructure, and technical teams, so the assets are essentially production ready. For the real estate, they own industrial land near the Tahoe Reno Industrial Center, which is one of the hottest data center corridors in the country. With hyperscalers there like Tesla, Google, and Microsoft all expanding, those land values have been surging. So Comstock will sit on that, but they're going to look for the right time to monetize these holdings in the future, Tim.
Okay. It strikes me that Bioleum, the fuels business, could be a major long-term opportunity. So could you give us a little more insight into that, please?
Yeah, definitely a big driver in the long term. Bioleum is a subsidiary of Comstock, and the company transforms woody biomass and energy crops into ultra low carbon fuels like cellulosic ethanol, renewable diesel, and sustainable aviation fuel, or SAF, which we've talked about a lot here. Their innovative process utilizes both cellulose and lignin fractions, which leads to the highly efficient production of low carbon intensity SAF. Now, the company has very important strategic acquisitions as well related to this company, including Hexas Biomass and RenFuel, and has key partnerships with Marathon Petroleum, NREL, and MIT. And overall, while Bioleum is still scaling up, they have demonstration facilities in Wisconsin and planned biorefineries in Oklahoma. This is really something to look at more in the long term, and the scale is potentially very significant.
So it strikes me from reading your report that silver, aluminum, and sustainable aviation fuel, or SAF, will be key products that investors should focus on regarding Comstock. So what are your outlooks for these products, Peter?
Yeah, all three of these are super exciting. And of course, silver is the one that's getting a heck of a lot of attention recently. But overall, all three of these are really shaped by sustainability trends, policy, and innovation. And these products have a very long runway ahead. So silver, first off, is seeing strong long-term demand growth. This is mainly driven by expanding green energy and digital sectors, but the traditional mine supply can't keep pace. Creating supply tightness and upward pressure on prices for some time to come. Now, aluminum is becoming a strategic so-called transition metal for the energy shift, with demand expected to surge, especially from electric vehicles and renewables. Meanwhile, environmental regulations surrounding aluminum and high energy costs are really limiting the supply, and that's driving the prices even higher. And finally, for SAF, again, I've talked a lot about SAF in the past here on this platform. This is obviously a vital tool for decarbonizing aviation. SAF demand is expected to see more than a 100x expansion in the next 25 years, while supply will likely struggle to really keep up. So SAF will require massive investment across multiple production pathways. And for our listeners, would also refer to our recent podcast we had with Klein and Company, and we focused a lot on exactly the story surrounding SAF.
So as you know, Peter, every company we look at faces some type of challenge or another. What are the biggest challenges Comstock faces?
Well, I would put a few up there, and there are certainly challenges, but a lot of these I'd say are fairly typical for companies that are commercializing new technologies. So first, scaling. Both the solar panel recycling and later the biofuels platforms are going to need to move from demonstration to full commercial deployment. That means you do have execution risks to think about. Second, environmental permitting is rigorous, but it's safe to say that so far Comstock has done very well in this department. Third, customer adoption. Large utilities and OEMs, they want to see fully operational permitted recycling facilities before they start signing those long-term contracts. And finally, we have to think about capital allocation here. As discussed, Comstock has multiple business segments. So really they need to, carefully balance investment across those businesses without diluting shareholders, or overextending themselves.
Yeah, that all makes perfect sense, Peter. Looking ahead, what's your overall outlook for Comstock over the next few years?
Well, yeah, in the next few years, the metals business is the clear driver. As I mentioned, the other ones are going to be a little bit of a step behind. Comstock's first solar panel recycling plant should reach full capacity in 2027. And the second and third plants are going to follow that. At full scale, each facility can generate $50 to $60 million in annual cash flow. And the company could reach 4 to 5 plants, operating by 2030. In terms of our forecasts, we forecast that EBITDA will reach $86 million in 2028, and close to $195 million EBITDA in 2030. Now, that is a big turnaround from negative EBITDA in 2025. So really, we've got quite big growth ahead for this company, Tim.
Great. Peter, I appreciate you sharing your insights regarding your initiation of coverage report on Comstock, NYSE, ticker symbol LODE. Have a great afternoon. Thank you for listening, and don't forget to subscribe, as well as visiting www.watertowerresearch.com to stay up to speed on the company's small cap written research reports, podcasts, fireside chats, industry-specific symposiums, and conference schedules. We will see you next time for another edition of the WTR Small Cap Spotlight podcast. Finally, a special thanks to the producer and editor of the podcast, Krista Fitzpatrick.